So I recently had a friend from out of town ask me where she should stay when her family was coming down to visit the Orlando area and go to Disney World. And this got me thinking. We have been to Disney World many, many times. We are annual pass holders. We have stayed both on and off property. So it got me to thinking, why don't I do a video about this topic? So that is what I'm going to do today. Okay, so the first thing that you need to think about is whether you want to stay on property or off property. So, on property meaning a Disney resort that is affiliated with Disney World, or off property. So that is the first question that you need to answer. And if you don't know the answer to that question yet, that's okay. So I'm going to be taking you through 4 questions today that we are going to answer to try to narrow down which Disney resort would be best for you. So the first question is, do you want to stay on property or off property? So let's talk a little bit about that, the benefits of staying on property. For some of the resorts that you stay at, you do get early entry time to the park. So you can go in 30 minutes prior to everyone else. For some of the deluxe resorts, you actually get to stay later in the evening, certain nights of the week. So that's something to consider as well. Another perk of staying on property is just the fact that it adds to the Disney magic. The resorts are so well done. It's a completely different experience than staying off property. Another benefit to staying on property is the transportation. So there are some resorts where you can take a boat, the monorail, and then all of them, of course, have buses. And then there's the Skyliner too. So there are many different ways to get around Disney from your resort to where you need to go. But that's just something to consider because that ups the convenience factor. The main downside of staying on property, I would say, would be price. However, if you look off property, a lot of times, many of the resorts, especially those offering amenities like water parks and water features and fun things like that, those are going to be comparable to some of the Disney resorts as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. So for the duration of this video, I'm going to assume that we chose that we were going to stay on property just for the sake of making this kind of seamless. I'm actually going to do a completely different video about staying off property at Disney. But if you answered no to staying on property, then you're going to want to go check that video out. For this video, we're going to be talking about or assuming that you're staying on property. The next question you need to ask yourself is about your budget. So there are 3 different categories of Disney hotels in terms of budget. There's value, there's moderate, and there's deluxe. There are 5 value hotels, and those are going to run you about $200 to $300 a night. And I want to add that that is the base rate. That's the starting rate. There are going to be, rooms at that hotel, say a suite or something, that are going to be more expensive than that. But that's just kind of the starting rate for the value resorts. Now there are 5 value resorts. It's going to be Pop Century, Art of Animation, All Star Movies, All Star Music, and All Star Sports resorts. So there are 5 moderate resorts, and those are going to start around $300-ish a night. The resorts are Port Orleans French Quarter, Port Orleans Riverside, Riviera, Caribbean Beach Resort, and the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness. Now let's move on to the deluxe resorts. There are 8 Disney deluxe resorts, and those are going to start around $400 to $500 per night. The 8 resorts are the Polynesian, the Contemporary, the Grand Floridian, Wilderness Lodge, Boardwalk Inn, Beach Club, and Yacht Club. I think I got all 8 there. Now, the third question you're going to want to ask yourself is, where are these resorts located? So you want to think about proximity to the park that you're going to be visiting the most. So if you're a Magic Kingdom person, then maybe you want to stay in one of the resorts that's located by Magic Kingdom. If you're really into Epcot, then there are some great resorts where you can actually walk right into the back entrance of Epcot. So that is a bonus there. So there are many different options depending on your preference. So I'm going to kind of go over which hotels are associated with which areas of Disney World. So the 4 main areas of Disney World that we're going to be talking about are Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and Disney Springs. So let's start with the Magic Kingdom resort. So those are going to be the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, the Contemporary Resort, Wilderness Lodge, and the cabins at Fort Wilderness. Now let's move on to the Epcot resorts. Those are going to be Yacht Club, Beach Club, Boardwalk Inn, and then in the other category, we have the Swan and Dolphin. Now that actually, when you're searching on the Disney site, does not come up as deluxe, moderate, or value. It's thrown into its own category called Other Deluxe Resorts. Now let's talk about the Animal Kingdom hotels. We're going to have, of course, Animal Kingdom Lodge, Coronado Springs, All-Star Movies, All-Star Music, and All-Star Sports. Now moving on to Hollywood Studios, we have Pop Century, the Riviera, Art of Animation, and Caribbean Beach Resort. Now moving on to Disney Springs, there is Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, French Quarter Riverside, and French Quarter Port Orleans. So now that you know which resorts are affiliated with which parks, that can help you to narrow down your decision in terms of where you would like to stay. Now, the fourth question that you're going to ask yourself is, what features are you looking for? One thing you might want to think about is the restaurants. If you're a foodie, then you might want to stay somewhere that has some nice fine dining options in your resort or has easy transportation, say on the monorail line, to get to another resort that also has great dining options. Another thing you might want to consider if you're traveling with young ones or you're a real Disney fanatic is some of the resorts have Disney storybook rooms. One that comes to mind is Port Orleans Riverside, and the other one is Art of Animation. Another question you might want to ask yourself or consider is Club Level important to you? Now, if you're not familiar with Club Level, I have other videos about this, but Club Level is essentially a way of thinking of kind of all-inclusive. It's going to include most of your food and drinks. And maybe I shouldn't call it all-inclusive because I know Disney does not want you to really consider it to be all-inclusive. They want you to actually buy food there as well. But if you are strategic about it, you actually can make a good breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then it also includes your drinks as well. You might be wondering which resorts have Club Level. Those are going to be Yacht Club, Beach Club, the Boardwalk Inn, Coronado Springs, which is also the only moderate resort that has Club Level, Wilderness Lodge, Polynesian, Grand Floridian, and the Contemporary Resort. Another thing you might want to consider is if you want to see the fireworks. There are some resorts, Beach Club, Yacht Club, and Boardwalk Inn come to mind, where you can see the fireworks right from Epcot. Now, some of the resorts where you can see the fireworks from Magic Kingdom are going to be the Polynesian, the Contemporary, Wilderness Lodge, and the Grand Floridian. The last thing that you want to think about is transportation. Some of the resorts have different modes of transportation. For example, at the Contemporary, you can walk or you can take the monorail. At the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian, you can do the monorail or you can take a boat. At Animal Kingdom Lodge, you can take the bus. So there are many different modes of transportation. And the great thing is that when you're searching for your hotel on the Disney website, there are actually little logos that pop up that tell you which mode of transportation is offered, and you can also search by those modes of transportation. So if you chose from the drop-down menu monorail, then it's going to show you the monorail hotels. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you are planning a trip to Disney, I'm so curious to know which resorts you've stayed at or which resorts you're considering. So please go ahead and drop those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video to be helpful, go ahead and give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We post videos like this to give fellow travelers inside details that we wish we had had before our trips. We also love sharing places that hopefully will inspire you for future trips.